Jerry Agar continues on the iHeartRadio Talk Network.
So earlier this morning, one of the candidates for mayor of the city of Toronto, Anthony Furey, who, okay, let's be honest, I said I'd vote for him, but that's not why I'm doing this topic. I mean, he's put out a lot of announcements, and I ignore most of them, as I do with the announcements of many of them, because a lot of them are giving, sort of similar announcements on various issues. The only difference that I see with Anthony is you can't blame him for the situation the city's in now, whereas everybody else who is leading the race for mayor of the city of Toronto was in a position to fix some of these issues, and they haven't, and now they say they will, and they can. So I find that interesting and actually not compelling. But the announcement today that Anthony Furey made had to do with the city of Toronto's branded drug kits, the facilitating of the use of crack and meth, and logoing it with the City of Toronto logo, which means it basically means that all of us are happy to get behind, that's how it looks, that the city actually gives the thumb up to providing people the means of making their life worse and worse. And so here's, this is an edited version that we'll give you here of the announcement this morning.
Taxpayers would be alarmed to hear just what's really going on with the drug culture being pushed by City Hall. Not only are there plans to create more injection sites throughout the city, but a whistleblower has provided me with City of Toronto branded crystal meth pipe kits and crack pipes. So your tax dollars, ladies and gentlemen, are going towards creating crystal meth and crack pipe kits.
Okay, so if you want to see a photo of one of these kits, you can see it at the NEWSTALK 1010 Instagram page. Just go to the NEWSTALK 1010 Instagram page, and you'll see the photo that was provided to me. I wrote back this morning to the person who provided me the photo and said, in the written information on the back, is there anything there that directs people to some kind of help to get off the drugs? And the answer was no. This is my problem with the so-called safe injection sites, handing out, facilitating supplies for people to use crack or meth, is there's no effort behind these programs to get people off the drugs. Therefore, I don't see them as caring programs. I'll use the analogy I used earlier this morning, and I'm happy to hear from you on this, especially if you think handing these kits out is a good idea, at 416-872-1010, 872-1010, toll free, 877-518-5151, 877-518-5151, or text me at 71010. Here's the analogy that I used this morning, and I still like it. So I say to my little child, who seems fascinated by the stove and the way the element gets red. It was black, and then it gets all red and shiny and it's warm, and the kid wants to touch it. Well, you teach your children not to do that. Don't touch the stove. In fact, never mind when it's on, when it's off. You don't know enough about it. Just don't touch the stove. We don't then say, comma, however, since you seem compelled to do it anyway, here's how you pull a chair up to the stove so that you can get up there and get your hand on the element, because you seem determined to do that. We don't do that. In fact, we'll smack the little kid away from the stove if they try to get to it. Don't get hung up on the fact that I said smack. If the kid is reaching for it, you're yanking the kid out of there. We do what is best for them, because they can't manage their own little lives. Well, people who are addicted to drugs are not managing their lives, and the city is facilitating it and then putting their logo on the facilitating equipment. Here is Stephen from Mississauga.
Oh, Douglas. Yes, hi. How are you?
I'm well. Go ahead.
Good. So I used to own my family used to own a condo out in Vancouver on Robson Street, just around the corner from one of the first safe injection sites. And we had one of the board members live in our building. And my father asked him one day, how many of these people are you getting off the drugs? He says, it's not our preview. They don't even
purview is probably what they said.
Pardon me?
Purview.
Purview.
Yeah.
They don't even know their names. They show up, they're given the needle, and that's it. They don't they don't really. I mean, it seems to be inhumane, and it's become a blight. We sold it 6-7 years ago because it was just awful. The needles were everywhere. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
And the crime rates went through the roof.
Well,
too.
this is the problem. There is a point at which a drug addict can only facilitate their habit through crime. There's no other way for them to do it. Sure, you have people who are so-called functional alcoholics. They're alcoholics, but they're still working, and they're causing destruction in their family, but somehow they're bringing in an income. And maybe for a while, people who take certain amount of certain drugs can function. I mean, Keith Richards seemed to be able to make a living. But a lot of people, and these are the people we're talking about, is the people who are destitute and on the streets. They have no visible means of support. The only way to get money is either through begging or crime. Here is Audrey from Midtown.
We were offered $60 an hour to create and put together those drug kits. And that's at taxpayers' expense. And it doesn't make the problem better. It encourages the problem. It's rewarding bad behavior at taxpayers' expense, unbeknownst to the listeners out there.
Okay, but wait a minute. Audrey, how were you the person that got offered $60 an hour to put this together?
We were told that if we were homeless or in a precarious position, at danger of being homeless, or if we're homosexual, we can get the job. I was rejected, although I never told them what I do in the privacy of my bedroom, that I couldn't get the job because I'm not homosexual, which, by the way, is discrimination under unemployment law.
All right.
Human rights code of Canada.
Thanks for your call. I have no way of knowing whether I've just been told the truth or not. Maybe, maybe not. Here is Diane from Niagara Falls.
Hi, yeah. I've called a couple times. My son, Michael, has been on drugs for over 26 years, and many times he's gone to jail for a month or 2 or 3, and he come out and go right back at it. This time, last October, because he was constantly using fentanyl, and he was missing for days, and I'm his surety. And finally, not knowing if he's alive or dead after a few weeks, I finally called the police and just told him he had just gone missing. And you know what? He spent 6.5 months in jail. He just got out a couple weeks ago, and he's still telling me he hasn't used drugs. And now he chose not even to start back on cigarettes.
Okay, so, how has he been supporting himself, or have you been supporting him?
Well, he was on welfare, and they sent him a few checks that they should have known, so he's going to have to pay that back eventually. But he has got some work coming up, even though he was in a lot of pain because he has just sat there in jail for 6.5 months.
Okay.
But yeah, I kept putting, because you have to put money in their account because they don't feed him enough. They barely give him whatever calories is supposed to sustain a man, whatever it is, 2,800 or something. But there's not enough for most men, and
okay.
You know. But I've always been saying all along for years that these people need to be forced in some kind of care or facility for a whole lot more than a couple months, and this is showing me to be true.
I agree with you, and I hope that this time it's working.
I sure hope so.
Yeah, I hope so, that he is telling you the truth and he can finally get clean. Here's Keith from Newmarket.
Yes, hi there, Jerry. Yeah, this is, once again, the city doing things entirely backwards. I've been working in the addictions field for over 20 years now, and it makes no sense whatsoever to facilitate drug use without giving somebody a viable option of getting out of that kind of lifestyle. I don't know how much money the city has put into developing, opening new treatment facilities, because the day counseling and going in to speak to somebody for 5 minutes when they have a moment, and they're really not focused on you know, the actual counseling. They just want to go in, use their drugs, and leave.
Right.
It doesn't work. The wait times are anywhere between 9 months and 18 months to get into a government facility right now.
All right. I appreciate your call. Thanks very much. You know, I've talked to numbers of people who work in the addiction area, and they say that this stuff is not working. And by the way, for the people sending text messages like this, what's next? Is it giving out gift cards for LCBO for alcoholics? No, that's not a good analogy. They're not supplying the drug. They're supplying everything else. They're supplying the place to do the drugs, the equipment to do the drugs, and by the way, kind of, we don't really have a problem with your drug problem attitude. That's what they're providing. This is the iHeartRadio Talk Network.